Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov. We're all together today. We're all zeicher to finish Shas, all in one day. Most important, over 400 people participated in this big siyum. The harbor is kavod shemayim. All types of people in our community. Neitaya, Neikailo, Balabatim, all different segments in the community participated in this Limud Hashas. What an achdus that we see today. What beautiful that Torah brings us all together. Torah is the life of Klal Yisrael. Throughout all the generations, throughout our history, Klal Yisrael kept us as Am Hashem. Only through Limud Torah. There is no bigger schus of the schus HaTorah. And today's Siyum HaShas should be a schus for all the girls who need Shidduchim. May the Baruch Hashem help with the Siyum HaShas. Many families find their proper zivug. May all be zeicha to Aramas Kem HaTorah and the coming of Mashiach Tzidkeinu Meher B'Yameinu.
Rarely are we opened up to what's going on in Bashamayim. I know I'm a Rebbe, and my tendency is to always ask Shilas, but I'm not going to ask the Olam, when are we being told what goes on in Bashamayim? When? Well, Rabbi Isai, I don't know if you know, the Sfaradim don't say Unesane Toikev. The whole tefillah Unesane Toikev they don't say. So I remember a Bocher once asked me, what? You can have Rosh Hashanah without Unesane and Yom Kippur without Unesane Toikev? So I told them, and what did they do before the Meister with Reb Amnon? They also didn't say Unesane Toikev. In Unesane Toikev, we are being told a little bit of what goes on by Shamayim. Malachim yechafezun, v'chilach odo yochezun. The malachim begin to tremble, and they say, Hine yoim adin. Somehow, 3 times a year, a gate opens up, and we are being told, you know what goes on by Shamayim now? Malachim yechafezun. The malachim run, and they tremble. Malachim are tremble. Ve'yoivu hine yoim adin. Rabbi Isai, far be it for me to claim that I do know what goes on Bashamayim. But the Koyach Harabim, I can tell the Olam, tonight Bashamayim was a big rush. A big rush. They looked down Bashamayim to Chicago, out of all cities, and they said, look, a whole Sibur of Eden learned Torah. Why? Why? Because we have to learn Torah. But we want to accomplish something. And what do we want to accomplish? The whole world, even the Goyish world, speaks about the walls of Yericho. The whole world talks about it. What happened by the walls of Yericho? Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that the walls of Yericho should fall in such a phenomenal nace? What was the nace? They took the Oran HaKodesh and they walked every day once around Yericho. Shabbos 7 times, and then they blew shofars. Shofars. And then the walls of Yericho fell down. Libi Oimerli, in Eretz Yisrael lately, They call those individuals that have a difficulty with shidduchim, they don't tell them, they call them me'ukavei shidduch. Something is me'akev, somebody is holding back their shidduch. That means nicht alte Bochim, nicht alte Mädlach. Me'ukavei shidduch, there's something holding up their shidduch, because Bashomayim is nigzer. Arboim yoim koydem yitziras amlat. Then why is it happening? Something is me'akev. There's a wall. The walls of Yericho were very powerful. The Ariya Kodesh says that there's a lot of koyach hatumo that was in the walls of Yericho. So much so that Yeshua cursed whoever is going to touch anything from the city of Yericho, as we all know, with Ochan. You know, you think Ochan was a little guy? We all say the tefillah of Oleinu L'Shabeach. Who composed Oleinu L'Shabeach? No fires now. Yeshua bin Nun. And then there was Nevach, one individual, did a very big chet and a very big aveira, and he took from the spoil of Yericho. And he knew that the oynish will be, he has to be executed. And Yeshua told them, Tein toida, admit, and then you'll have a chelik l'olam haba. Rabbi said, do you know which tefillah he composed? That Ochan, ve'al ken ekabel cho Hashem Elokeinu. He composed it. The sinner that decided to do tshuva. When are we saying Oleinu? And when are we saying ve'al ken ekabel cho Hashem Elokeinu? In the middle of Musaf, of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That's when we mentioned the whole inyan of Yericho and what happened thereafter. I think Chazal want to tell us, now, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we have a koyach to break walls. We have a koyach to break walls just like the Yidden in Yericho had a koyach to do it. How? The Oren HaKodesh. They walked 7 times. I think, who am I to think? But the Koyach HaTzibur, you're allowed to say it. There was such a simcha b'shamayim today. When the Ribbon Shalom, he says, the Chazon Ish composed a beautiful song, as Kutshubrichu is calling, Pamal Yodilei, is Malochim, and he says, Chazu, Bona Chavivayu, look at my dear children, they live their own simchas, and they just oisek in my simchas HaTorah. This is not Stam Simchas HaTorah. Everybody learns, and you have schar for what you learn. About it, you have schar. But this was done for a purpose. Yidden came together because they are in pain. They are in pain. Do you know the tsar of parents and grandparents and the people themselves? Mono Shidach. I'm involved a little bit. I don't want to go into the whole story. No cause, no shadchan cold. No. Why? Sometimes you do know, sometimes you don't know. You know the tsar of the father and the mother and the bocher and the girl. And sometimes they climb the wall. They climb the wall. I hope it's the Ata Dishmaya. A lot of walls that stopped Shidduchim were broken tonight with this Koyach HaTzibur.
Hilano l'cha Yisrael. Sementai v'madu tai v'sementai. Hilano l'cha Yisrael. Sementai v'madu tai v'sementai. Hilano l'cha Yisrael. Sementai v'madu
Rabbi say, if one shidduch comes out of tonight's evening, the Oil Olam is learning Shas, a Pashta Zach, Nishke Pashta Zach, the whole Olam, ganze community. If one shidduch would come out of it, you would say, one shidduch, what is this? What is one shidduch? Rabbi Aaron Kotler Zechasadik Levracha came to America in 1941. He joined the Kollel in White Plains, then off to Lakewood later on. But he went around collecting money for the Vadat Sol. The Vadat Sol was an organization that was trying to save Yeshivalites and all kinds of people from the inferno burning in Europe. So I met many, many years ago an Alter Yid who told me that he followed Rabbi Aaron around to all the shuls that he made appeals in. He made appeals in many shuls in any community that he went to for Shabbos. People don't know Rabbi Aaron Zechasadik Levracha used to leave Lakewood on Sunday and come back on Thursday. He was fundraising either for his own yeshiva or for Chinuch Atzmai or for all the other Meisders term, whatever he was fundraising for. And he went around fundraising, and this Yid told me the following, that he said over it every single shmuas and every drasha that he gave, he said over the same Rashi in this week's parsha. In this week's parsha, the pasuk says, "Vayem Hashem al Moshe arei da'ed ba'am pen yersu al Hashem b'lirais v'nafal nimenu rav." What might happen is that many people might die. V'nafal nimenu rav. That's what so Rashi says. Kol ma sheyipol mehem, any amount of people that die. If I feel who yechidi, even if it's one person, choshev lefanai rav, is considered rav. So Sisacham explains that Rashi was bothered at the diktuk, the grammar of v'nafal. It should have said v'naflu, yet it says v'nafal, tavas. What Rashi is trying to say, one nafal, one single person that we could save. It means saving a Klal Yisrael. It means saving a mishpacha and deirei deiris. But nafal imenu rav. Rav means many, because one person nafal Shas4Shalom means a rav, means a Klal Yisrael. When you come together to help for Yeshuas for Shidduchim, what one person could build. I remember my father, Colonel Levracha, was an only child. He was nifted many, many years ago, and we think back our family sometimes together to see what came out of one child. My mother was one child, and had a brother in Eretz Yisrael. And together they built diaries which you could all look back. One shidduch, Rabbi say, ain't single shidduch. What do? How do you make yourself feel the tsar, the pain? So next week's parasha, the pasuk says, V'sachas raglav, k'maisa livnes asapir. They looked, they weren't supposed to look. Whoever it was, this Canaan, they looked in to see what was going on, and they saw under HaKadosh Baruch Hu's feet a sapphire brick. And Rashi explains, Lizchar, to remember the shibud of Mitzrayim, they made him work, vein him with bricks. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a sapphire brick, and Aleph Fergim the Kasha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to have a reminder. HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to have a reminder. He needs a sapphire brick under his feet to remember the shibud of Klal Yisrael. He needs the reminder. I think the answer is, when you want to do something to help somebody else, it's important to do something l'maisa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't need to show and tell, so to say. You didn't need to have a prop. It's not a prop. You want to remember. When you have something, you remember. And the Livnas HaSafir was a something, Ramban says, when you have a service to do something, make a chayfetz out of it. Do something with a chayfetz from them. So Klal Yisrael understood, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a Livnas HaSafir, what do we have to do to remember the Tsar? Comes Chicago together, is there a greater chayfetz to make than to learn Torah, to learn our Torah Akdosha? Is there a greater chayfetz than sitting together making a siyum on Shas? Is there a greater livnas hasapir? Why am I doing it? To help in Yanim. Yanim, and Vida Yanim. That's what we're here for tonight. And our G'dei Yisrael told us already many, many times what it means. I want to tell you a story I remember today. Mishuna Dikamaisa, that it's a little known story. To see what it means, sir. I went to a chasana 3 or 4 years ago, and I remember this story. I came to the chasana, I had 2 weddings in one night. I went first to one chasana, was in the Bronx. Then I came back to Williamsburg for the second chasana. I arrived at 10:30. I expected to come to that chasana. I expected to come to the beginning of the second dance, so towards the end of the chasana, 10:30. It's very late. I come in there, the chuppah is just ending. Was geschehen? We had a fight. We had an argument. What was the argument about? You know, different people have different minhagim. Chassidim, Litvisha, father, mother, mother, what goes on, etc., etc. There are some chassidim dafka that father, mother also. He stole the chassidim dafka. Whatever it is, but I found that under the chuppah, before they went to the chuppah, the Messiah Kedusha said he's not going to be Messiah Kedusha unless his father. For 2 hours they argued. For 2 hours they spent money on making a chasana. It's not shaykh. Why am I telling you the story? to see what it means to see us oil, zelu mazeh. I don't want to dwell on the negative. I met a Yid in Eretz Yisrael. He told me he was by the chasana of Reb Nachum. Reb Nachum was the Eidim of Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. The chasana was around 1950 when the Shanchai Oilam came out. Imagine Reb Nachum did a Welt Shidduch. He's married to Rosh Shiva's daughter. Reb Nachum was a gadol himself, but then he was a younger man, a bacher, coming out of Shanghai, coming out of the inferno in Europe, when his whole family was destroyed. Shortly before the chuppah, there's a Yid that was there at the wedding. Herta Maisa, what's it mean to see us oil? To do something, to feel. Everybody's sitting here, Rabbi say, you're feeling what it means, one bishpacha, Rabbi say. The tsar the parents have, they're waiting for a child to get married. Their mind is consumed just with this prat. And you're making it just a little bit easier. You're showing people that you care. So Reb Chaim goes over to his daughter. He says in Hebrew, I'll say it over in English. He says, Ani va'ima, we're not walking you down. We're not walking you down to the chuppah. Now please understand, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz lost his entire mishpacha also. He ended up with the chesed of Shanghai. He was Rosh Shiva of the Mir in Shanghai and then came to Eretz Yisrael. We're not walking down to the chuppah. And his daughter was a little shaken up. Lama. He says, because we're going to be walking down your chassan nachem. And surely, you can say without the Reb, he's going to be standing under the chuppah waiting for you to come down. He has no parents. His whole family was killed out. What's he going to think when your Ima and I are walking you down? I'm going to ask a cousin, Reb Moshe Finkel, Beli Baruch's father, and his Rebbetzin walked down the Kala. He heard the Maisa. He wanted to feel Reb Chaim Shmulevitz was the king of hearts, of feeling. I can't let him feel bad. We have to do something. Chicago came along and did something that no one has done. The ganze Stadt is screaming out and shouting out, we're going to help. We're going to finish ganz Shas, the Yeshuas for these people. This Pashut Rabbi say. This is the schus that you have. The schus that you all have, Baruch Hashem, in this amazing state. Because you're giving away your time, and you're not giving away anything because you're sitting and learning Torah. So that others could be helped. But it means a shidduch. To a ladle, you know what? It's more than that. Not even the shidduch. It's all those people in town who feel that they feel there's in a CS oil. It lightens the load, Rabbi say. The fact that Yena cares, it makes you feel a little bit better. It's a bissel better. Not only tzaretz rab mechatzin chama. It's more than that. It's the people are feeling the pain of other people. What a wonderful thing you're all doing over here. That's Klal Yisrael, Rabbi say. This is Klal Yisrael. There's a pasuk. Last week's parsha B'Shalach, beginning of the parsha, it says over there, which I get the words exactly right, that Parai says, L'bnei Yisrael. I'll forget the kasha was meintos. V'amar Parai L'bnei Yisrael. So the Pashto Pshat is, Rashi says, Parai, V'amar Parai L'bnei Yisrael. Li means al. Rashi says that li means al. Targum Yenis Ben Azil says it doesn't mean al. He said it to two people. Who do you say it to? To Dasan V'Aviram. Dasan V'Aviram? What are they doing there, first of all? Look at Targum Yenis Ben Azil. Merul Diskin has a shtickle Torah on it. I'm not going into that right now. What Dasan V'Aviram? Doesn't even have a plan, it seems. The plan was they're going to get everybody to come back and they'll take over. They'll be in charge. They'll be Dasan V'Aviram. Do we have two worse people in Chumash Shmais? We talk about Dasan V'Aviram? And they're still there. The kasha, they all ask the kasha, why do they live? They all died. 4/5 of Klal Yisrael die. Why doesn't Aviram live? They absorbed the blows for other people. They were allowed to live. What were they doing in Mitzrayim still? Mishigayim, whatever they were. But they absorbed the blows. They became this. They couldn't become this Canaan. They couldn't become later. They couldn't become Sanhedrin. That they couldn't become. But they absorbed the blows. They weren't going to die. The Olam here. This is not Dasan Aviram. This is talking about the holiest part of Chicago is here. People are giving their time to sit and learn Torah. That's absorbing the blows. You're helping to absorb the blow. Absorb the blow. People get this every day. I once spoke to someone who had a daughter that was older. He says, you know that my mind, I'm completely consumed day and night by one Indian, the shidduch of my daughter. I wake up with it, with a sour taste in my mouth. I go to sleep at night worrying about it. It's all day long. And we are the Shas4Shidduchim Recap that are absorbing a little bit of that pain by saying, I feel for you, Reb Chaim, I feel for you, Reb Chaim. I'm learning L'Shema, that your daughter should have a Yeshua. You're not saying this directly, of course you don't want to hurt people, but you're saying this to all the Reb Chaims of the whole Chicago, and to all the Rebbetzim Malkis of Chicago. You're saying to them, we're absorbing your tsar, we're absorbing your pain. And I want to say just one more thing, and I'm apologizing that I have to leave right away to the airport, so the speaker's after me, but I have to leave, but I want to leave, I said 20, 25 minutes, I'm keeping my word. I want to tell you a American thing. I'm saying the name because he's not makbid. Avi did nefesh, his name is Reb Kalman Epstein, the Rosh Yeshiva of Sha'ar Torah. Reb Zelik's son, Chashavid, we grew up together in Williamsburg, we were best friends. I was a Yankee fan, he was a Dodger fan, but we were good friends. We grew up together as children. The kids, the same building, we lived, my father, my parents, right on top of the apartments, are very, very close friends. Till today, Baruch Hashem, we don't see each other that often anymore. So he once told me, a Meredith story he told me over. He says, what pshat? Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged Ahor. The pasuk that the chairman mentioned before. Vayichan Sham Yisrael. Everybody knows it's a song. Kish echad b'leiv echad. Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged Ahor. Alaveis in the Rashi. Kish echad b'leiv echad. Dr. Kalman, this is the only time in Klal Yisrael Vayichan that b'leiv echad. Kish echad b'leiv echad. When they jumped into the Yam Suf, when actually another jumped in, they weren't together. Kish echad b'leiv echad. Only over here when they were sitting by the mountain. When they came, they sat down there. Only then? Didn't happen before? When they were going through the Tsaris and the Shiva of the Mitzrayim, didn't happen before? So Kalman told me over a few people, personal story. When his first Rebbetzin was very, very sick in the hospital, and this is my feeling, I look around at the audience here, Kanhara. So when his wife was very, very sick, he spent, which is the right way, he spent the entire Yom Tovim with her when he had to be there. I think the best Yom Kippurs that I had in my life were the 5 out of the last 10 Yom Kippurs of my mother that I spent with her in the hospital or at home. And I davened together with her. Can you do better than that Yom Kippur? So Kalman told me he stayed the whole Yom Kippur with his wife. The last year she was in Nefteris. She fell into a deep sleep, mincha time. And he saw that she's going to sleep. So he left her bed. They were in Mount Sinai Hospital. And there's a chapel there. So he went into the chapel. There were about 30-something people davening there. And he went into davening. It just came just about when they were up to Ne'ilah. There was a little Hasidish Yidla, a short little fellow who says to the people in the room in the chapel, he says to them, do you mind if I say a few words before Ne'ilah? The Welt, the Rav, the Rosh Yeshiva, the Rebbe, Azak Divrei Cyrus, right before he tells it to Ne'ilah. Do you mind if I speak for a few minutes? They all said, Gesundheit. Gesundheit. A room Nebuch, he says, of broken people, he says, everybody was there for a father, a mother, a brother, a son, or a wife, Rahman al-Islam. Who was there? Who was in the hospital over Yom Kippur? There's 2 people there that were happy that had babies that day. Everybody else, he says, is broken. And Yidla gets up and he says, you know, we're all best friends here, he says. I know everybody here. We're all here for a few months already, many of us. We got to know each other. Every part of Klal Yisrael is here. The Kippas Ruga and the Chassid and the Litvisha. We're all here, and we're best friends. And it's wonderful. And we know each other. And then he said, you know, they're all going to leave here. He said, we're all going to leave here. For the better or for the worse, and we're going to not see each other anymore. And you know what? This is what he said before, Ne'ilah in the hospital. We're going to leave here. For the better or for the worse. And we're going to go back to being our silly, petty selves. I'm good. Ich bin das. Fight. Yada. Litvish. The Ashkaz. We're going to make up with each other. He says, what's wrong with us? Because now we're in the hospital, so we have it sorrow, so we're busy with each other. We're busy with each other. And later on we're going to leave, so we're going to forget about each other. We're not going to care about an Achdus in Klal Yisrael. We're not going to care about it. We're not going to care about being together. What's wrong with us? And he came down. And he left a murder Geroshim on the people there. All Tzebrach on the people. So Kalman told me a murder thing, he said to me. It's easy when you're in the trenches. When you're jumping into the Yam Suf, it's very easy. When you're in Mitzrayim, they're beating you up, it's very easy. You have it tzara together, so you hang on to each other. It's Zayalach to do that. They were calm. Waiting for Mount Torah, they were relaxed. And there was Yisrael. That's a madrega of Klal Yisrael. That's a madrega of Klal Yisrael. Even when there's no reason to have to hang on to each other. So the Yidla said, let's stay this way. There's such an achdus here tonight. You look around at the population, it's so wonderful. And And the kunst is to stay like that. That'll bring Mashiach, and then all the Shidduchim will come. This community is doing something extraordinary with Achdus, with Torah. All the combinations, Torah and Achdus, and helping other people. What a bracha is going on here tonight. Maybe we should bench taka. All of the girls, wherever you can, by the way, just think of Shidduchim. You got to think of Shidduchim. Shidduchim come from the funniest and strangest ways. You got to think of Shidduchim. The kunst is, Rabbi Yisrael, when you hear about a bracha somewhere, write it down immediately. Write it down right away. Maybe find out who he is and write a Shidduch. The strangest things happen in Shidduchim. If everybody here walks out here with the Siyam HaShas, say, I want to help somebody, take a pen and paper, keep a pen and paper in your pocket, you hear somebody, a girl, a boy, whatever, I'm going to try to think of an idea of something. You'll be surprised how much Shidduchim come out of this Gewaldige Heilige gathering. Maybe she should bench all of you, particularly Rabbi Yossi first, the ganze Kehila Akdaisha for doing what you're doing, Shematzliach, and seeing many simchas in Chicago, with Torah L'Shva, continue finishing Shas many times with Hashem, and we'll bring Mashiach to Kingdom here, B'meinu, Amen, V'Amen.
I would like to introduce you to yourselves. It's important for one to know who his target audience is. So I want to let you know who you are. We know that the bane of society is that people are constantly multitasking. They can't stay focused. Some Nashim Tzidkaniyas can pick up their children in the carpool, and the youngsters are so excited, euphoric about school, be'enai ra'isi, about a test that they aced, about a friendship that they made, about the masiba that they had. But the mother's multitasking. She's talking on the phone, she's doing so many different things. You got to focus on your child, you got to focus on your family, you got to focus on yourself. I remember when I first moved to New York nearly 11 years ago, I came out of the shul and I saw Eisha Chashuva with like a stroller. I guess it was like a sports car stroller. You can go like 30 miles per hour, you can jog with it. And she's pushing the stroller, and she's holding the stroller with one hand and the phone on the other. And this little 2-year-old child is saying, Mommy, Mommy, 2 hands, 2 hands. Ich habe nicht verstanden. But then I understood that the mother is not focusing on this 2-year-old. But if it's 2 hands, she won't be talking on the phone and she'll focus on the child. So I was zufrieden. The mama had gekrogen, the Musel was it aufkriegen. Got into my car, I drove around the block, and then I saw a super stroller, 30 miles an hour down the street. And Taka, the mother, was holding the stroller with 2 hands, but the phone was cradled between her shoulder and her neck. So she didn't get the message. A malach cannot multitask. An angel has one mission, accomplishes that mandate, and remains there l'netzach netzachim, for eternity. So each malach had his own mission. Levaser Sarah, to let Sarah Imenu know she would be an Ein B'Yisrael. L'Rabba says Avraham to heal Avram Avinu. And Mapechas Stem V'Ameira. Why is Malach Gavriel visiting Avram Avinu? We should have gone straight to Sodom and Gomorrah and destroyed them. What's to tell by Avram Avinu? There's a Mezuman without him. And the Rebbeinu Shalom created the world. He consulted with the Malachim. Nasa Odom B'Tzalmeinu Kid Museinu, a very good tactic. If you're running a moisid, a business, you consult with the people that are working with you. And he said, let's create man. And the Malachim, the first cat, responded, the foilty, the frailty of the human condition. They cheat, they steal, they kill. It's not kedai to create them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu incinerated the first cat. Second cat was consulted. Same response, and they too were burnt. The third cat group remained silent. Chazal say what happened to them eventually. But every single day, the Malachei Chavolo, the angels of destruction, the persecuting angels, they go up to Shemayim and they report that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's no tachlis for mankind. They're jealous of each other, they're immoral, they're decadent, debauchery, murder, thievery, terrorism. Destroy the world. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu had allowed Gavriel to go straight to Stom V'Amoira, he would have been convinced the whole world is this way. He would have clamored to destroy the whole world. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, take down a ketovet, take down an address. A yid was heißt Avrom Avinu avoint in Charan. See this yid. See how he has changed the face of the earth. Put people tachas kanfei Hashrina, introduced monotheism, and extended chesed to mankind. Avrom Avinu. Now tell me about the rest of the world. And I guarantee you right now, the Malachei Chavola are saying terrorism, thievery, all kinds of chicanery, people are killing each other, nations are killing each other. There's no tachlis to the world. So Rebbe Hashem says to Malachim, take an address that's in Chicago. You'll meet 500 Yidden who are learning Shas for one reason. Because their sisters and brothers are in pain. Because they can't bear to see neighbors and friends and people that they don't know attending a chasna when it feels like you're attending chas v'sholem, a funeral. When they have to dance with the kala and they're 23 and 24 and 28 and 33 and 35. They have to hulyazuk with the chassan. Asher an elta bacha, he's 22, 28, 40. And he dances with all his heart, and she dances with everything, with all the shtiklach that they have. But they're crying inside, so people, they daven, and they daven, and they daven. And then there are over 500 Heilige Yidden in Chicago, Illinois, that said, Genug, it's enough, but the Rebbe is done. Ramatas Yo Solomon says, when you read a shidduch, it's like you're putting the strobe light on top of the Hatzalah vehicle. It's Pikuach Nefesh. 500 Yidden said it's Pikuach Nefesh. The Beiner Shalom, what could we offer you? The Purple Mountain Majesties, the White House, was cannot give them. So you obviously cannot give them. We cannot give them Shas. We can give you Shas, learned in a day, over 500 Yidden, some 2 blots, some 5, some 1. All for one purpose. We need Torahs. We need the continuity of Klal Yisrael. We need Einaklach and Ur Einaklach. And we know wonderful Bachrim and young ladies who would be extraordinary spouses and extraordinary parents. Parents, give them a chance. That's what this is. That's the yisoid of this Torah. When the Chazon Ish was nifter, the Briskerov said, Welt yesterday mit the Chazon Ish, und heint on the Chazon Ish. Yesterday the world had the Chazon Ish, it's a different world. Well, yesterday was a world without Shas4Shidduchim. And today we have a different world. So roll up your sleeves and start making those phone calls, because you're going to think it's incredible Zachen b'siyata d'shmai. The Gaon of Shmuel told me that in Chicago this past year, there were 150 Shidduchim from the Torah community. B'siyata d'shmai will be 250 and 300. And not from brachas and skulis. A Sephardi Rav once told his Olam, Kol echad mechapes segulot, ani rak yodea baduk menusa, yesh rak segula achad, ein segula katorah. Could you imagine a community? You deserve going to weddings. You deserve going to Avart and to Etnoyim and calling and shedding tears of joy. Taste. Ein segula katorah. So that's where we start. We start with the koyach hatoira of Shas. Shemi Shmuel says, Mesechta is biloshin mosar sha'achotzer. Mesechta is a curtain that descends. You know what Mesechta Ksubas is? It's a curtain of protection that envelops a person. Mesechta Avodah Zarah, Mesechta Chulin, Baba Kamek, Baba Metzi, and Marcus. You know what Shas is? Shas is this incredible curtain that will circle and ensconce Chicago and trap all the tefillas, all the tzedakah, all the chesed that you're legendary for. One of the first speaking engagements I ever had out of town was for the Vada Leonis. And the Rosh Hashivas were there, Reb Chaim Zatzal, Reb Chaim Dovler Mafur Shleimer. The whole shtot was there. What says Vada Leonis, Reb Mechazik, the dying first? This goes back 30 years ago. And look what's occurred in 30 years. It's an under Chicago. It's a totally different shtot. I've come here hundreds of times to speak, to share simchas. Nebuch for Chaim Schmoltz's Levaya, I've been in many, many times. But to see such a Chicago, to see as a Ponevezh, as a Satmar, as a Merkaz Arav, all combined into one. This is a din in Chicago. This is unique to Chicago. My good friend Zislo from Sidney Glenn asked me as we were dancing, did Rob say anything like this? So mistakenly I said, yeah. I had been in London for Shas4Shidduchim for a time. I had been in New Jersey, but I was wrong. I've never been to a shtot that celebrates Shas to celebrate Shidduchim.
Mazel tov on the Siyam. But the truth is, I really come to say thank you. I have daughters in eat Shidduchim. What a wonderful thing that a community gets together to learn Torah and Schos. That the singles, girls and boys, should be able to find Shidduchim. What an incredible thing. What an incredible thing. It's not easy. Rabbi Yosef first explained to me that this year was more difficult. It's more difficult. It reminded me of a story. I heard this story. There was a Rav in Baltimore named Rabbi Vitzik. He was a Talmud of the Panevėžio Rav. And he told over this story in the name of the Panevėžio Rav. He said, the Chafetz Chaim used to sit in the Beis Medrash mishabbos l'shabbos, and he came home for breakfast every morning. So every morning he ate breakfast with his wife, with his Rebbetzin. But when he was younger, he slept in the Beis Medrash and he came home from Shabbos to Shabbos. So his wife ran a store, And that's how she supported them, running the store. And one day they made no profit. So she borrowed a little bit money so she should have food. And she served him breakfast. And she didn't want to stare him. So she didn't say anything to him. The next day was the same story. There was no money. She borrowed again. Served him breakfast. Went back to the base medrash. And the third day was the same. And she didn't want to borrow any more money. So she went outside to the garden and picked some things that were there that were barely edible. And she served that for breakfast to the Chafetz Chaim. To the Chafetz Chaim, it made no difference. He didn't say anything. So she says to him, don't you see that breakfast is different today? Yeah, I guess so. So she said, I haven't made money in 3 days. I don't know what's going to be. And the Chafetz Chaim banged on the table and he said, Yetzirah, it's about the garnish helfen. You're not going to drive me away from learning. It's about the garnish helfen. And he went back to the base medrash. And then, of course, she started making back money in the store because he wasn't leaving the base medrash anyway. Something is hard, that means it's chashuv. And what the city of Chicago said was that even though it's difficult, it's for garnish helfen. If the Siyam HaShas is important, which it definitely is, it's going to continue even through Corona. Even though there is such difficulty of putting people together, but Baruch Hashem, we're able to be Messiah Shas. In this week's Parsha, find an interesting thing. Vayiloinu, they came and they complained that they had no food. Now this happened 3 weeks after Kriyas Yamsuf, 4 weeks after Yetzias Mitzrayim. Klal Yisrael had just witnessed Yetzias Mitzrayim, Eser Makas B'chairis, Amud Eish, Amud Anan. They went through the Yamsuf, Amayim Lem Chayma. And 3 weeks later they're complaining. 3 weeks later they're complaining. And the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't even have a time on them for complaining. And the lesson of that is, that when people see things and they become emotional and they reach high madregas, it's hard to hold on to those madregas. As time moves on, it's difficult to hold on to such madregas. And Vayiloinu, 3 weeks after Kriyas Yamsuf, there can be a Vayiloinu. It's a frightening thought. You would think that after Kriyas Yamsuf, Vayaminu B'Hashem V'Maisha Avdai, they reached that high madrega of Amunah. But humans are humans. And emotion takes you only that far. And 3 weeks later, it's Vayiloinu. So during the Beis HaMikdash, during the first Beis HaMikdash in the time, there was the Tzinsenes Haman. And when they came and they complained what's going to be with Parnasa, they showed them the Tzinsenes Haman. The Rebbeinu Shalom takes care. But the Tzinsenes Haman is no longer with us. It's hidden away with the Aron. How do we hold on? How do we hold on? How do we engage the Yetzirah Vayiloinu? How do we answer the Yetzirah when he questions why? Why aren't my daughters finding shidduchim? Why am I having such a difficult time with Parnasa? Why is health so difficult? And all other shilas that come up. And the Yetzirah says to us, Vayiloinu, complain, have a taina. Why? What is our answer? We don't see Kriyas Yamsuf, and we don't have a Tzinsenes Haman. We don't have any Nes Nigla. We live in a time of Hester Panim. We live in a time when we don't see openly the Yad Hashem that we can tell the Yetzirah, Leave us alone. Look, Tintzana Saman. It's not there for us. And this happens to us time and time again, on different levels. We stand by Shabbos and by Shemoneh Esrei, and we say, Kacheinu b'mitzvaysecha, Seichokeinu b'zayresecha, Tzabeinu mituvecha. In the exalted day of the week, Shabbos Kodesh, what do we ask for? V'tar libeinu li'avdecha be'emes. And we move on to Shalosh Rav de Ravin, the highest time of the week, Eis Ratzain. And then 20 minutes later, it's Hachal Aleinu, Sayamim Abam Likarseinu, Chasuchim Mikol Chet, Umenukim Mikol Avain. We go from V'tar Libeinu L'Avdecha Be'emes to please Rabbeinu Shlalem, hold us back from doing Chet. What a drop. What a drop. From the emotional high of a Shabbos Kodesh to the reality of a week setting in. We're not asking during the week, Kacheinu b'mitzvaysecha v'tar libeinu. It's not in Shemoneh Esrei. It's Chasuchim mikol chet, umenukim mikol avain. And how do we hold on? How do we hold on? And the answer is in the next two words, Mudbakim b'sayrasecha. Amelus b'tayra. Tayra shabal peh. Being immersed in Tayra shabal peh. That is the answer to the Yetzer Hara. Amuna. Amuna in the Bayri Kalaylamim, and Amuna is strengthened by putting into ourselves the Divrei Elikim Chayim, the Rabbeinu Shlem's words of Tayra, through the amelas that we put into the Tayra shabal peh. That is the one constant. The one constant that we have, whether it's Shabbos Kodesh or Tuesday, whether it's Nili Yom Kippur or in middle of the winter, it's Mudbakim b'sayrasecha. We do this. We start in Elul and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and some of us are Zaycha then to go into the Sukkah and to feel the Kedushas HaSukkah. And then it all comes at the end. Nobody takes us down. We go up, 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 up. But it ends with Simchas Torah. It ends with Mudbakim b'sayrasecha. The one constant, the one answer to the Yetzer Hara of Vayiloinu. The answer to the Vayiloinu is Imam b'emunah shalema, Sha'abayri Yisbarach Shemai, Asa v'Aisa v'Yasa l'chol ha'masim. How do I reach that Madreg in emunah? How do I become a Maimon, a true Maimon in the Rabbeinu Shlalem, and recognize that everything comes from him? Whether it's difficulties in Shidduchim, or health, or Parnasa, or any other nisyanis that's thrown our way, it all comes from the Bayri Kalaylamim, and the answer is Mudbakim b'sayrasecha. It's through Limud HaTorah and through support of Torah. And for the Nashim Tzidkaniyas for sending their husbands and their children to learn Torah. That strengthens our Amunah. That's our constant. That's when we can say, Chasuchim mikol chet, Menukim mikol avain. We no longer feel that Kedusha of Shabbos. We no longer have that emotional attachment. But it's Mudbakim b'sayrasecha. Rabbeinu Shlalem, we want to attach ourselves to our Torah. Mudbakim b'sayrasecha, Shas4Shidduchim.